The dinner table gleamed with luxury, crystal glasses, silver plates, and hidden cruelty. Ethan Porter smiled for his guests, boasting about his empire, while his wife Camille sat silent beside him. Then, with arrogance disguised as laughter, he spat on her, in front of his family, his board members, and a dozen stunned witnesses. Laughter froze. Cameras caught it. What none of them knew was this: the black woman he just humiliated owned 90% of the company he bragged about. And by morning, he'd lose everything he ever claimed to build. The dining hall shimmered with chandeliers, laughter, and hypocrisy. Ethan Porter lifted his glass, bragging to a table of investors about how he built an empire with nothing but genius and grit. Beside him, his wife Camille Porter sat in silence, poised, unreadable. The only person in the room who knew his story wasn't true. He hadn't built the empire alone. He hadn't even owned most of it. But that truth was buried under years of arrogance and control. Tonight, at the family dinner marking the 10th anniversary of Porter Global Holdings, Ethan was putting on a performance. The successful husband, the visionary CEO, the patriarch of perfection. And as always, Camille was expected to play her role, silent, supportive. "Invisible? Let's toast to the man who saved this family," said Eleanor Porter, his mother, her voice dripping with pride and venom. "And to the woman lucky enough to stand beside him." The table laughed. Camille smiled faintly. Her expression never cracked. Ethan leaned toward her, whispering, "You could at least pretend to enjoy the night." "You're embarrassing me." "I thought this dinner was about truth," she said quietly. He scoffed. "Truth doesn't suit people like you, Camille." "Gratitude does," the laughter returned. The sound grated. She could feel eyes watching, his brother Victor smirking, his so-called friend Madison flirting from across the table, and Julia, the family's PR manager, pretending to comfort her with fake sympathy. It was all theater, every compliment, every toast, every cruel aside, and then, as the waiters brought out dessert, Ethan raised his voice for attention. "You know," he said, smiling, "people always ask how I managed to lead a company and a household at once. I tell them it's easy when your wife never speaks." Laughter again. Harder this time. Camille stared at her plate. Ethan smirked and added, "But don't worry, she knows her place." Something in the air shifted. A hush spread. Everyone sensed it. A line crossed, a silence too heavy. Camille looked up slowly. "Do I?" He leaned back smug. "Don't test me in front of my family." She met his gaze. "I wasn't testing you, Ethan. I was waiting to see if there's still a man left behind that ego." He froze. The table watched. The tension crackled. Then, without warning, Ethan spat. Right in her face. Gasps erupted. The sound of crystal glasses clinking stopped mid-air. Julia covered her mouth. Madison laughed nervously. Eleanor muttered, "Ethan, sit down." Camille didn't move. The spit rolled down her cheek, but her eyes never broke contact. "You've forgotten yourself," Ethan said coldly. "No," Camille replied. "I think you just reminded me who you are." He slammed his hand on the table. "You will apologize." She dabbed her face with her napkin. "Not tonight." "Not ever." Ethan stood, towering over her. "I built everything you see here. Without me, you'd have nothing." The room buzzed with whispers. Phones recorded discreetly. The humiliation was viral before the dessert was served. Camille rose slowly, her voice low but steady. "Are you sure about that?" Ethan scoffed. "You want to prove something? Go ahead." "Gladly," she said. She reached into her clutch and placed a sealed folder on the table. Inside were ownership certificates, legal, dated, binding. The logo at the top read Porter Global Holdings. Ethan frowned. "What is this?" "Your empire," Camille said. "The one I own." Laughter rippled, uncertain at first, then faded as she continued. "When the company was collapsing 6 years ago, your lenders walked out. You begged for funding, but no one trusted you. You forgot one thing. Your wife was listening. I invested through silent partnerships and private equity funds. 90% of your company has been under my name since 2019. Ethan blinked, speechless. That's impossible. Camille opened the folder and handed the papers to his brother. Victor, read the owner's signatures aloud. Victor hesitated, scanned the document, and swallowed. Primary shareholder? Camille Porter. 90%! The table erupted in chaos. Eleanor stood, trembling. You can't— I already did, Camille said. Ethan's voice cracked. You forged this. Camille smiled faintly. Go ahead. Call the company's lawyer. I'm sure he'll answer me before he answers you. The lawyer's phone rang across the table. He looked down, then up at Ethan. Sir, she's telling the truth. Ethan stumbled backward. You stole my company. I protected it, Camille replied. From your ego, from your lies, from the empire you nearly destroyed chasing mistresses and headlines. Julia stood from the corner, whispering, Camille, this isn't the place. It's the perfect place, Camille said. He chose the stage. I'm just giving the audience a better ending. Ethan's breathing quickened. You think you can embarrass me like this? I'm not embarrassing you, she said. I'm exposing you. He lunged toward her, but Victor and two guests stepped in. The family dinner was no longer his, it was hers. Camille turned to the crowd. I won't scream. I won't curse. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for balance. You all watched a man humiliate his wife and laughed. Tonight you'll remember how quickly laughter dies when the truth arrives. She looked back at Ethan one last time. You spat on me because you thought I was beneath you. But from where I stand now, all I see is a man drowning in his own arrogance. Ethan slumped into his chair, face pale, speechless. The cameras caught every moment. By morning, the news broke. CEO ousted by wife. Majority shareholder exposes husband in public meltdown. The board voted unanimously to remove him. His accounts froze. His name vanished from the company website. Camille's first act as chairwoman was brief. All executives complicit in the cover-up are terminated immediately. She didn't stay to watch his downfall. She didn't need to. As she walked out of the mansion, reporters called after her for comment. She paused only once and said, He spent years mistaking silence for weakness. He finally learned silence was strategy. And with that, she stepped into her car, leaving behind a legacy of quiet power that could no longer be dismissed.